What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Capitalism Remix. Today, we're going to do a little solo, not really solo. Zay and I are going to have a little conversation about some things we've been thinking about. This pushback against DEI, new acronym MEI, Merit, Excellence, and Intelligence. We're going to get into it a little bit and talk about how I think about that and what we think is going on in the world of work, business, and capitalism. So, can't wait for you to hear. Welcome back to Capitalism Remix. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Capitalism the Remix. Just me and my man Zay here today. That's it. I'm just gonna do a little. We're gonna do a little a monologue, as they say. Well, it might be a monologue. I might tap Zay in from time to time. But I woke up. Hey, Zay, you ever see this movie called 2 Weeks Notice?
I have not.
It was with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant. It's back in the 90s. It's about this guy he's a boss, and he has his assistant, and he depends on her for everything, and she just gets fed up with him. And at one point, she says to him, honestly, I think you're the most selfish human being on the planet. And he says, well, that's just silly. Have you met everyone on the planet? And I always think about that movie. And what I'm going to talk about today, I want to talk about this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I always think about that movie and that line when I'm thinking about what's going on in the world with DEI, right? Um, some of the most, I think, coveted jobs, well-paying jobs, and those that can help create wealth generations. Many of us get locked out of those jobs and those opportunities, not because of our capabilities, but just because of the way, where we look and where we come from, right?
Yep.
And, we're a country that sees race. We're not alone in that regard, obviously, but there's no doubt that race plays a really powerful force in our society. Politicians and pundits use it to divide us, and mostly it's about one group of people maintaining a position of political or economic power. And in working in business, this has meant that people of color didn't get the same opportunities to progress in corporate America as their white counterparts. Um, you know, there's going to be people who listen to this and say, well, that's not true, Jeff. I know a guy, and he was a black guy from the Bronx, and this is where he ended up. This is not a law. None of it's set in stone, right?
Yep.
And those who disagree are going to point those exceptions out.
Yep.
Um, but we all know that this whole idea of merit is all that matters is not true, right? We all know that. And I'll leave it to those of who are listening, and maybe those people don't listen to me, I don't know, who are spreading this idea. I'll leave that to scour their own conscience and see where it leads them. But for the rest of us, that's how this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion comes into comes into play, or as I like to call it, just common decency, right? Simply put, this idea suggests that perhaps we should be proactive about letting anyone or everyone who's qualified have a shot at success. And to do that, we should actively seek to include those in our society who've been proactively been denied that, such in the past. So to me, it seems like the right, decent thing to do. But if you think about the potential impact on business, and this is what we talk about here, right?
Yep.
If you think about the potential impact on business and creating shareholder value, I always tell people think of the economic advantage you could create if you were looking for talent in places where that other people ignore for a long reasons. We talk about that at the Conscious Venture Lab all the time. That we're looking for talent in places where other venture firms ignore, and that's turned into an incredible competitive advantage. But it's this notion, the people say that they don't see race, but race is a powerful force in our society, and people in power won't relinquish it easily, even if doing so could improve their bottom line.
Yep. Yep.
So, in the last few months, I've been following some stuff in the press on a new attempt to maintain that power by what I say, continuing to deny others an opportunity of success. It's this pushback against DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, emerged in a form of, this new acronym I'm hearing called MEI, which stands for Merit, Excellence, and Intelligence. And there was an article not long ago in the Wall Street Journal that labeled it an anti-DEI approach to just good hiring.
Mm, yeah.
Which drove me a little bit crazy. So talk about why that drove me crazy. Look, this MEI term seems to have been coined by a guy named Alexander Wang. He's a CEO of a company called Scale AI, which I don't know much about. It probably should, but he wrote a letter about the company's hiring policy that he posted on X, the old Twitter. While he did point out in the letter that MEI is not in some way anti-diversity, I think the very fact that he feels a need to make this distinction is part of the problem. The entire note he wrote presupposes that hiring on merit and hiring for diversity are two separate and distinct activities. The fact that someone would say that I hire for merit and not for diversity, that to me is in of itself a racist statement.
Yeah.
It pitting the two against each other presupposes that you can't do both, right? So, if I in our organization, if I decide that um, the best person for a particular job is a black woman, like I've decided that the best producer for the show is a black man, uh, I'm making that decision because I think a black woman will bring certain sensibilities, experiences, perspectives to the company at a time when those things are specifically needed or required for us to be successful.
Yep.
That doesn't suggest in any way that I'll hire a black woman who has inferior capabilities or technical talents to other candidates. It simply suggests that I'll continue to look until I find a candidate who has all the characteristics required to be successful at the job that I'm hiring for. That's why that quote always, always makes me laugh. Have you talked to everyone in the world? Right? People say, I only hire on merit. And I say, is that right? Yeah, we only hire the best people. Well, have you talked to everybody? Right? So you have to open up the aperture if that's really what you want to do. And I think that we sort of decided to do both, right? To hire diverse candidates who are also the most qualified. Because we care unapologetically that many diverse candidates don't get the same opportunities as their mostly white male counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I'll get some pushback for that, but it just is what it is. And I care about helping humans flourish as much as I care about building a great company. And in fact, I believe helping your humans flourish is a surer path to commercial and financial success. So, you know, and of equal importance, I think hiring a diverse candidate who's also the most qualified is a great thing to do for our society because of all of the history of, those diverse candidates being left out of those opportunities. So, I'm sure I'll get some pushback on all of this, but it is what it is. This is why it's our show today and not somebody else's show.
Look. And it's an important conversation to have because, like, just how you said the new acronym, MEI, right? It's just like how they
Yep.
hijacked what for us in our community what woke really meant. Woke just meant an awareness of what
Uh,
challenges you have in your life, and it wasn't something that we couldn't succeed in the midst of it. That's not what it meant. It just meant,
yeah,
hey, you got to keep your head on a swivel because this stuff can happen to you, but you still have to operate in excellence. Now it's like woke is talking about so many, it's so broad that it's
yeah.
like,
It gets you don't stop me on woke today. We don't have time for that today, but you're 100% right. This idea that woke is a bad thing is like, well, what is you really want to sleepwalk through life?
yep,
Right?
yep.
Which is the opposite of being woke.
But
So
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
and that's what they
No,
want us to do. So right, even when you talk about the
100%.
whole diversity, is they want you to be sleep. And it's like you and I both know, and I've had these arguments with people. We were raised saying we have to be 10 times better.
Yep.
We have to be the first in, last out. that's just how we were raised because that's how it was, and it hasn't changed as much as no matter how many successful people that happen. Black people still the average income for us is 30,000. Right? Like that's the number. So you talk about someone like I forget the guy's name that is like one of the wealthiest black people. He has his own like I think investment firm. I forget his name, but it's like y'all like to point to him. I was like, yo, that's an aberration. Like that's that's something
Yeah,
that's outside the norm, you know.
yeah. That's the anomaly. Yeah,
Yep, the
yeah. Well,
anomaly.
look,
Yep.
that's the anomaly, right? Well, look, let me get back on path here
My
because
bad.
we've gone down that path for a while, and I'll be happy to do it. But look, I think, but actually, this is really tied in, right? Because this guy Wang and others that suggested hiring from MEI is going to naturally create a diverse workforce, right? Because no demographic group has a monopoly on excellence. Well, obviously, you and I think he's right about the last part. No demographic has a monopoly on excellence. But a mentor of mine, who used to do a program for me, who was at the time was the CEO of Porsche. He once told me another acronym that I've never forgotten. WGMGD. What gets measured gets done. Right. So if you're not measuring diversity, if you're not thinking about it, it's not just going to magically happen. And in fact, your biases will come through. Right. And my personal hero in business, Peter Drucker, once said, "Only three things happen naturally in organizations: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership." Right? And people like this guy Wang, he might very well be a great business person, but leadership, as you and I know, requires something more. Right? It requires a level of caring and empathy for others that isn't, to me, apparent in many of those that are espousing the MEI path forward. Some people say, well, they're great leaders because they've created a great business. They might be great businessmen, but they may not be great leaders. Anyway, you know, I also believe that many business people are jumping on the MEI bandwagon, are using this as an excuse to exclude minorities and other people of color instead of a tool to cast a wide net, right? And find the best talent, right? So just as we were talking about a minute ago, you can't hire the best people if you don't seek out everyone.
Yep.
That's just silly, right? Um, yeah. So this has obviously been on my mind a lot, and so this I think it's an important discussion. You know, in the world, Zane, for a long time. I'm getting old now, so I don't do it as much as I used to. But I was studied martial arts for a long time, Taekwondo and Krav Maga. And in the world of martial arts, yeah, we have goals, but more importantly, we set standards for ourselves,
Mm.
right? So these rules or guidelines are absolute minimal level of effort achievement, the things you commit to yourselves to doing, achieving every day. So for me, I think diversity is not a goal, it's more of a standard.
Yep.
Because I care that diverse candidates have been left behind. And of course, I know that I can find diverse talent that is excellent every way. It's interesting. I was having this discussion with my wife, and she said, "Well, you know, you have a couple of white guys and white women that work for you, and black, you know, folks, and you and Zay and Whitney." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not saying I have to. I'm not doing only one thing. I'm actually wide opening the aperture and trying to find as many great candidates as I can. And I know if I do that, I'll and focus on looking for diverse candidates. I'll find great diverse candidates. I'll also find great white women, right? So it's a little bit of both, right? You have to
Yeah.
be able to do both things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's key for everybody to be able to see themselves in an organization, point blank, period. Like you need all of it for it to really grow. As we talk about, we look in our particular community because this is what we just have to speak of, right?
yep.
When you think about every kid talks about being an entertainer, but we don't talk about being CEOs and senior vice presidents of companies because that's not what kids see on a regular basis. It's
Right.
not, so they don't aspire to be those things. And so, even as we think about, because I think a part of this whole conversation is because a group of people maybe refuses to adapt, to grow, and to change, has a lot to do with
Yeah.
why they don't want the diversity, because they're like, well, this is the way it was in the past and this is the way it should stay. And it's like, but that's not how life works, right? You don't stay a child when you're born, you grow up into an
Yeah.
adult. So life, everything changes. You have to be
Yeah.
willing to change. So just because you have a particular hue of skin, which we know is really all the same color, it's just one's lighter, one's darker. If we want to get into the
No,
depthness.
you're taking us down. You're taking us down a lot of different rabbit holes that will keep us here for a long time. Um, but
But we're
but
all
I
this,
hear what you're saying, though.
because
Yeah, I
if you
will
take
definitely
this,
hear what
you take the skin off, we all have muscles that all look the same.
we're all the same
We're all
underneath.
the same underneath.
We gotta start talking about that more. Look, I'm gonna land this plane though. You know, diversity, when this idea that diversity is a standard, right?
Hmm.
As is hiring based on merit for us. They're
Hmm.
both standard. The mistake, I think, is to suggest that, or assume, or believe that my standard of having a diverse workforce in some way forces me to give up the standard of an excellent workforce. Right? This is what you're talking about. It's like those who don't care about diversity reject demographic standards. To me, I don't think there's some kind of champions for excellence. In many instances, I think they're simply biased against people of color. And they may be using this new argument to hide their true political or cultural views, not really advance their business aims. So instead of hiring for merit and building more just society, they're likely using MEI as a tool to eliminate candidates who don't look like them and to erect new barriers, right, for candidates who've traditionally gone unnoticed and, more importantly, underemployed. So I don't think that's something that we can stand for. So I just want to have a little conversation about that today, Zay. Thanks for indulging me. Um, this will be a short one for all you out there, but look, if any of you want to talk about this or chime in, I wrote an article on Medium, essentially talking about this, so you can find us on Medium. We'll put that in the show notes. But I think it's, let's see, where's my Medium profile? I think it's well, you just look for Jeff Cherry on Medium. You'll find me. You can find us there. You can comment there, and or send us an email. The Capitalism Remix. Let us know what you think. Comment in the show notes. We'd love to hear any feedback on this discussion. All right, Zay, that's it. That's all I got today. All right. Uh, thanks for
Yes, sir.
thanks for joining me. Thanks for being tapped in, and we will talk to you guys all next time on Capitalism Remix. I think we have who we got coming up. We got a lot of people in the queue. We got Kip Tyndall in the queue.
Hmm.
Um, do we post Susan Salgado yet?
Yes, yes. It go live tomorrow. Then we have
We did. Okay.
Concrete Harvest, and then we have oh my goodness, we have Matt. I just his name is his company name
Matt.
is drawing a blank in my mind. With the kids learning tools.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. From Future Makers. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Future makers. Yeah, yeah. So we got a lot in the queue. So come on back. Keep joining. Don't forget to promote, give us thumbs up, all that sort of stuff. All right. We'll see you guys all next time on Capitalism the Remix. Thanks for coming. Bye.